Mr. Mayor and Steve.
It's gonna work.
Oh.
All right. Yeah.
You too.
Yes, Wayne.
No, I was just going to say, apparently the technical issues are now resolved.
It is so. Looks like we're good to go.
Yep. I think it's we're on.
Okay. Let's call it to order then. July 22nd meeting of the Plan Commission. I will ask for a quick roll call.
Okay. 1 second. Let me turn to the page here. Mayor Devine.
Here.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Kathleen Degenhardt. Kathleen, you're muted. Brian Frank.
Here.
Ben Holt. John Keckheisen.
Yes, here.
Amanda Nowak.
Here.
Frosty Menka.
Here.
David Rashka. Eric Torkelson. We have 3, 4, 6 present.
Okay. We have a quorum. Item C will be approval of the minutes from our meeting in June. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any changes to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Minutes are approved. We will move on to section D, our agendas, items 2A and 2B.
All right, first item on our agenda is a special use permit and site landscape architectural review for Endless Motorsports, located at 2200 South 108th Street in Grant Plaza. So that business is a used power sports dealership. So they'll be selling vehicles like snowmobiles, ATVs, motorcycles, jet skis, things like that. They plan to have no more than 10 vehicles showcased indoors, and their hours will be Monday 11 to 7 and Tuesday through Saturday 10 to 6. Next slide, please.
One more.
I'm not seeing them advance at all on my end.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, you just went over the hours, so now the property is zoned C4.
I don't see the zoning slide.
Okay, let me see.
Steve, I think you maybe are not sharing your entire screen and are just sharing one window.
Okay,
Because we're seeing the,
Overview.
okay, let me try something else then.
there you go.
Is that better? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
There we go.
So the reason that this is a special use is because indoor motor vehicle sales are a special use for that zoning district. And if I recall, I think the zoning district is E4. Let's see. One more slide. Yes. And the public hearing is scheduled for August 4th next week.
Okay.
So the site and architectural plan, you'll see here that they have 2,600 square feet of space. That includes a showroom. That's the majority of the space is the showroom, and they'll have a back office where they'll do financing activities. This same space is shared with other businesses, C Spa Nails and World Finance. Next slide, please.
Slow.
it's a little slow. So here's the landscape plan. We have 8 parking spaces required for our zoning. 3 of the 30 available parking spaces will be reserved and the rest will be shared. So staff, they have more than enough parking. And we believe that the existing landscaping in this already is on the site is adequate. So staff recommends approval. Next slide, please. Subject to a few conditions. So if the applicant will install double doors, which they may have indicated, they're not sure they're going to do that yet. We ask that they submit architectural elevation of the changes, and we are, oh, sorry, am I cutting in now?
Little bit.
I'll move closer. All right. And we're also asking that they give us send us some information on the frequency of deliveries and location for drop off and pickup, and to submit a letter of intent to keep the alleyway open or unblocked, just to not upset any of the neighbors on the back end of that block. Other than that, staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Tony. Are there any questions?
We have AJ here on the call in case you have any questions for the business owner.
Thank you. If there are no
I
questions,
move
we have a
for
motion,
approval.
motion by Brian Frank. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Rossi Manca. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, items 2A and 2B are they are approved. Sorry. We'll move on to item 3A and 3B.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, this is David.
Yeah. Yes.
I'll be abstaining from items 3A and B and 3B.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is for a new office building at the intersection of 71st and National. The site consists of about just under an acre of land, about 3/4 of an acre, in 2 parts, actually 3 parts to this. The lower portion along National Avenue, 0.47 acre parcel, which is formerly Expert Automotive. A small alley section, a 14 by 120 foot alley section, and then a 0.16 acre former parking lot for the Expert Automotive site. All of these properties are currently owned by Expert Realty Investment, and there's a pending offer to purchase by Max Meinertz of GG003 LLC, who would purchase the property and then develop a 2-story, 17,000 square foot office building, 2 floors, the lower level being 2 tenant spaces, the upper being multi-tenant. It would also include a Mr. Meinert's dental office in about 3,500 square feet of the building. The property is zoned C3 community commercial. It does permit office uses as a permitted use. The reason why we're here tonight is really just to sort of get an idea of the proposal before us, and then to take consideration and take action on the site landscaping and architectural plans, as well as the alley vacation. The one portion of this project that would go before council will be the alley vacation in later this year in September. Moving on to the next slide here. Blank. There we go. These are the two parcels right now, and just some views of those parcels. Look from National Avenue, from the site itself, looking towards National Avenue. The senior center being across the street. To the east is a commercial mixed use land use. To the west is a commercial and mixed use land use. To the north of the overall site is residential development. And this is just a view of the alley vacation area. Currently the view is looking here from 71st Street to looking east. with the parking lot being on the left, the alley in the center, and then the development site for the office building on the right-hand side. The area map there shows the approximate location of where that section of alley would be vacated. Again, it's 14 feet wide by about 120 feet long. That will require a public hearing. The office development portion, this is the site plan that's been submitted. And if you took a look at this, the site or the staff report, there are some options for Planning Commission consideration. The site plan we're looking at right now, the variations are very subtle, but nevertheless, there are different options. The original plan submitted here shows roughly about 45 parking stalls. 60 are actually required. 45 are being proposed on the site. The building would be fronting National Avenue. There would be perimeter landscaping, new landscaping islands within the parking lot itself, and then also buffering the neighborhood to the north. The trash refuse area would be located on the east side of the site, and alley access would be restricted. So if you're parking, if you're coming here to shop or to go to the dentist, to utilize the commercial space, you could enter off of 71st Street, and you'd have to exit onto 71st Street. There will be no cross access into the alley as currently designed. And this is just a closer view of the same thing, just rotated 90 degrees, with the National Avenue being on the left-hand side of your screen. The purple grayish shape there is the new office building, about a 7,800 square foot footprint. And then you can see the green areas being landscaped. I don't know if you can see the cursor here, but this is the refuse area. There's ADA parking, a walkway along the back side of the office building. So we feel it's going to be a really nice addition to this intersection. It'll serve not only the neighborhood, but the city, the larger city in the region. And it should be also a welcome asset for the neighborhood. We'll find out more so what the neighborhood thinks as well as this does go to public hearing. The alley vacation portion of this project does go to a public hearing. Neighbors within the area will be notified and to get their input and comments on the proposal. Now this is an alternate view. It may be hard. I've got another landscaping plan to back this up, but the difference here, if you recall on this previous plan, are you guys all seeing the landscape plan here?
Yes.
On the previous plan, there's green space in the rear parking lot area between the two rows of parking, but there's no landscaping along the frontage of National Avenue. In this option, the building is right up to the property line. In the next option, and I'll go to the landscaping plan right after this. It might be easier to see, but the next option, they're eliminating the landscaping island in that back parking area, but instead mitigating it by adding landscaping in front of the building, so between the building and the sidewalk, which would soften the edge, provide a little greenery, a little aesthetic up along the front of the National Avenue. They'd also be adding another foot or so of landscaping along the very north property line, which abuts a residential neighborhood. So it's a subtle difference, but it's one that we thought would be important to share with the Planning Commission. We think it's going to look, we think it's going to be a great development either way. I think our leanings are towards some landscaping out in front of the building, but we just wanted to share that and certainly offer it for your consideration and thoughts. The next slide here is just my attempt at sort of illustrating some of that in PowerPoint here with the new landscaping areas again. So if you see here, the landscaping between the two rows has been taken out, and that provides some additional room to actually move the building footprint back away from National Avenue about 3 feet to add some foundation plantings between the building and National Avenue. And then furthermore, along the north side of the property, adding another foot or so of landscaping to an existing 3 or 4 foot wide area up there. So it would, in some respects, it's maybe the best of both worlds. While you're losing some landscaping within the parking lot area between those two parking rows, you are adding it to, in one case, a street frontage, in the other case, a residential side yard for a little bit more buffer. Additionally, it shows here that there's going to be a separation, a landscaping separation, and a curb, which is going to limit, actually restrict anyone's ability to enter the commercial parking lot area from the alley, or to leave from the commercial parking lot area to the alley. So we think that that may be respective, maybe one of the best options respective of the neighborhood. We'll get more comments from the neighborhood as we delve into the alley vacation process. There is one other slight difference here with the relocation of the dumpster. If you recall, in the previous version, the dumpster was located here. In the alternate Plan B, the dumpster is located on the east side of the property, just sort of rotated about 90 degrees. The area here just becomes green space. So we feel it's, we think it's a good plan. The next slide, we'll get into the architectural elevations. And the elevations are composed of two different, actually a brick material. There's also obviously a good amount of glazing. There is some spandrel glass that's being introduced within some of the tower elements. And those mainly just in the areas where there's transitions between a first floor and a second floor, where you'd be looking through the glass at the actual floor partition. That's one of the reasons why they've added spandrel glass here at the southwest corner of the building. And again, in the tower elements on the west elevation as well. The west elevation faces 71st Street. Again, the transition between first and second floor. That's where they're going to put this opaque spandrel glass. You can't see through it. It looks like a window, but you can't see through it. Light will not transmit through it. All of the other windows within the building are translucent glass, first and second floor. Brick style, we'll get into a rendering next, which will show, which will help indicate some of the colors that are being considered for the building. The upper portion of the building is a hardy panel siding. And there's also a coping material along the roof line and a strong roof line material over the top of the tower features. So this is the view from 71st and National. You were standing on the south side of National, maybe in front of, across the street from Bronze, if you know where that is, Bronze Pub, and then looking northeast, this would be your view. So it's a nice form for that corner. It holds the corner very nicely, a nice urban edge. In this particular rendering, they are showing the landscaping in front of the building. There are two existing street trees, which you see here and here. Then there's the sidewalk where you see the people. And then between the wall and the sidewalk, there would be roughly about a 3-foot area for some foundation plantings. Additionally, we'd also be working with the developer on, as space provides, perhaps some movable planters along the west side of the building as well. We feel it would be a nice look for this corner and for the city. There's also wall wash style of lighting on the building for additional night interest. So not only during the day, but at night, the building is aiming to impress and be a fresh new look for the corner. The next slide here is of the east and north elevation. So the north elevation faces the parking lot, and the east elevation faces a mixed-use building immediately just east of the site. And there will be a 10-foot setback between the building and the east property line. It's showing a brick on the east elevation, as well as the other 3 sides of the building with the hardy panel and coping trim work, as well as the glazing, pretty much on all 4 sides. So you have 4-sided architecture. You have a nice blend of masonry as well as the hardy panel, architectural lighting and windows. We think it's a good model for the future. This is the back of the building from the parking lot. In this example, they have that median, that island within the parking lot. If that gets moved out to the front along National, it wouldn't be here. So it's just a representation of an option. The first floor plan, as proposed right now, they're looking at possible two tenant spaces on the ground floor, one of which would be a dental office, which would be the easternmost of the two, I believe. And the upper floor would be 4 tenants, currently proposed. Wood frame construction. There are also awnings in the front of the building too. Depending on the location of the building and which option is preferable to the planning commission, it may or may not need a grant privilege for the awning encroachments into the right of way. But we are recommending approval subject to the conditions in the staff report. And, I guess before we dive into any of those, or if there are any questions at this point, or if anyone needs clarification, we also have the project team on the line, I believe. If you know, they're here to answer questions or provide clarification as well. So why don't we do that, and we can dive into recommendations if as needed.
Thank you, Steve. Are there any questions?
I move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Brian. Is there a second?
Can I, before we go ahead, I appreciate the motion, but I mean, is there a preference, or I guess does planning commission have a preference with landscaping front or back, or would you be willing to provide staff with the flexibility to maybe work those details out with our project team?
I actually, I would prefer in the front.
Okay.
That would be my preference. Just more greenery where people can see it. So I do like the second one better than the first.
Okay.
I agree.
Yep.
Did I hear there was a lot of consensus on that?
Yep, I think so.
Okay. Do you have any other clarity that you need Steve, from the planning department's perspective?
Let me just take a quick look at the conditions. You know, as of earlier today, the project architect has been providing some revisions to satisfy these conditions on here. So, but I'm very comfortable with proceeding if Plan Commission is willing to give us that flexibility to work these remaining details out. And I think we're really happy with the direction this is going. And yeah, so I thank you for your direction, and we are recommending approval as proposed in the staff report.
Okay, so Brian, you made a motion to approve. Do you just want to add that specific into your motion?
Yeah, the front, the greenage in the front, right?
Okay, and was there a second to that? I'm sorry if I missed it.
I'll do it. John Keckheisen, I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion on items 3A, 3B? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 If there are any no's, please say no. And then please record Dave Roshka as an abstention.
Okay, noted.
Okay, item carries.
Mr. Mayor, before we move on, I'd like ask a question.
Yeah.
A question of David. Would you mind sharing why you recused yourself?
The architectural office that I work for has done the design work on this project, so I am deeply involved, invested in it.
And now that we voted and approved it, do you like what's going on?
Yeah, I'm happy with the result. I think we've got a good site and a good opportunity here, and we've got a developer who I think is a nice project for the corner here.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Item 4.
Tony's got this one.
All right, so that's the Hickory Bridge Construction Office. They applied for a site landscape and architectural review. This is a look at the outside of their building at 6501 West Lincoln Avenue. And the reason they are submitting an SLA review is because they are planning to add a second story to their existing building. So as you can see here, you can take a look at what the existing elevation looks like up top and then the proposed below. Construction materials include corrugated metal siding on the second floor and new wood siding over the existing first floor. So they're basically going to take the roof off of the first floor and add a second story. Next slide, please. New space will be used as additional office space. So you can see everything that's been bolded is new. We're adding a staircase as well as a ramp and guardrail. I believe the only condition of approval is to bring the ramp and guardrail up to code. It doesn't meet our building code as it stands, so we just want to make sure that all of that construction is up to code. So you'll see there that the second floor is just more office space. And this is the landscape plan. So they have some solid shrubs that they're planning to plant around the edge of the building, and that landscaping is adequate to staff. Staff recommends approval for this plan with the one condition to provide details of the ramp and guard that meet the building code. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions on item 4? Not, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Amanda. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Rossi. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed, please say no. Item 4 carries, and we will move on to item 5, which is Carrie's Krispies.
So you may all recall that Carrie's Krispies came through as a special use a few months ago. So they're an existing food production company that specializes in making gourmet Rice Krispie treats. They're located at 7133 West Beecher Street. And what you see before you is their proposed business signage. So normally we would approve a sign like this. However, this sign is proposed to be painted on, which painted signs are not permitted in the sign code. So they are an appeal. The maximum allowed, next slide, please. Maximum allowed square footage for the business. First, okay, so this is the slide before. Don's Diner is an example of a painted sign on vinyl siding, which is exactly what Carrie's Krispies is proposing. So just wanted to throw that in there so that you all can see what it looks like in real life. Next slide, please. Maximum square footage allowed is 60 square feet, and their total sign square footage is 60. So they're meeting our size according to our sign code. And planning staff recommends approval because this does meet a lot of our qualifications for the creative sign subsection in our sign code, which I'll just read off a few of them. It constitutes a substantial aesthetic improvement to the site and has a positive visual impact on the surrounding area. The sign is of unique design and exhibits a high degree of thoughtfulness, imagination, inventiveness, and spirit, and provides strong graphic character through the imaginative use of graphics, color, texture, quality, material, scale, proportion.
I like it.
Staff believes that this sign meets all of those criteria.
Cool.
I move for approval.
Second, Kathleen.
Okay, we have a motion by Brian, second by Kathleen. Are there any questions? Thanks for the presentation, Tony. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody opposed, please say no. Okay, item 5 carries, and we will go on to item 6.
Mayor, item 6, the applicant is requested to be withdrawn from consideration this month, but is preparing for next month.
Perfect.
Okay.
Next up, we'll go to item 7 then.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 7 is a proposal. The Common Council is sponsoring an ordinance to remove taverns and alcohol beverage sales from the zoning ordinance as a special use and convert it to a permitted use. And typically, I mean, well, the way it is now, all liquor stores, taverns, say any convenience store that happens to sell alcohol, beer, and the like would require a special use, which also triggers a site landscaping architectural plan. We've looked at a number of gas stations, convenience stores, liquor stores, and numerous taverns under that process. The problem is that there's sort of a two-prong approach with having both a zoning process and a licensing process. And the issue that comes up is that we end up bottlenecking sometimes, and it really slows down having perhaps the need for 2 public hearings, a licensing hearing to exceed quota at times, then the special use public hearing. And the council is very interested in tapering that a bit by making the uses that we're talking about here, taverns and alcohol sales establishments, from, again, special use to a permitted use. Now, so what's going to happen is that while it may be concerning that we're going to lose control of aesthetics and image and site landscaping and architectural review for these uses, the License and Health Committee is going to be informed of by staff when we get an application that comes into the clerk's office. It's going to be distributed to various departments. And those departments then are going to review the application for their respective disciplines. In our case, we're going to review it for site landscaping, the zoning and planning portions of our review. And we're going to make a determination if the site is in need of a new look, perhaps landscaping or facade architectural signage, and we'll offer that recommendation back to the License and Health Committee of the Common Council for their consideration. At that point, when they make their decision or they make their consideration on the license, they'll be able to, at their discretion, refer that applicant to the City Planning Commission for the site landscaping and architectural review as needed. So we think it's a good move. We're not opposed. We're recommending council approval of the ordinance. Planning Commission is a necessary step with any ordinance change, and the next step would be a Common Council public hearing on August 4th. In some cases, I guess there's sometimes concern, obviously with certain properties, but in other cases, there's not always the need to go through a formal special use process when you have a site that's perhaps maybe a little bit newer or that's been newly remodeled, and we're kind of just adding formality in those cases. So we think this is a bit more streamlined approach, and we're looking forward to trying it and seeing how it works out. So if there's any questions at this point, I'm happy to try to entertain them.
Thanks, Steve. Does anybody from the commission have questions?
Yeah, this is Brian. I just have a question. Changing this ordinance, is that gonna change some of the special use that they already have? Or, I mean, would somebody possibly lose the ability to sell like alcohol or something like that?
No.
When this changes?
No. So, I mean, anyone that wants to sell, let's say you're an existing gas station and you want to sell beer, you'd have to apply for a license, and that license would be reviewed by the License and Health Committee. And under this new ordinance, the License and Health Committee would refer that license application to us, and we would review that site and make a determination and provide a recommendation back to the License and Health Committee as to whether or not we think it requires, some Planning Commission oversight for site landscaping and architectural. And if they accept our recommendation, then the applicant would have to prepare plans and specs and to meet that need. And then the Planning Commission would have the oversight, as you guys have in the past with these things, to review them and make your recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I move for approval.
I'll second Kathleen.
Okay, we have a motion by Brian, a second by Kathleen. There's no other discussion. I will ask everybody to say aye.
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 And if there is anybody opposed, please say no. Hearing no no's, the item carries. And we will go to our final item of this evening, item 8.
Thank you, Mayor. Notice I don't have a slide in here for this one, but I think the staff report does call it off well and provide some explanation. But in this case, this is an existing clinic at 111th in Oklahoma, basically the intersection of Wolmer Road and Oklahoma Avenue. There's an existing clinic there. It's recently changed hands. There is some new ownership, and the new owners are updating the name of the clinic on the wall with a new wall sign. And when they applied for the new wall sign, staff did a comprehensive review of the overall site and noticed that there was a pole sign on the property. Pole signs are considered non-conforming signs, so that when you make an investment in your property to bring it up to speed, in this case with the new wall sign, we also made a recommendation for them to remove the existing pole sign and if they wish, to put back a monument sign. The issue that they're having is that they understandably want to comply, but the problem is their budget. They need a little more time to fulfill the city's sign ordinance requirement. So they are asking for an additional year. The city usually allows for a year's time to come into compliance. They're asking for 1 more year, so a total of 2 years to come into compliance. They've actually submitted a monument sign plan as part of their intent to comply with the sign ordinance. And that sign does feature a 2-foot brick base and reveals and a cap feature and 2 tenant panels on the sign in a bronze finish with their logo and routed letters. So it's attractive looking sign. It's a max height of in this case they're proposing a 6-foot 10-inch sign. There's a copy of it in your Dropbox link or your staff report, whichever you have in front of you, which we feel meets the signage ordinance, and we're recommending that Planning Commission offer them some flexibility the additional year.
Questions?
Yeah.
I'll move to approve, Kathleen.
Is there a second? Is
I'll second.
that Amanda?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Item carries. And I believe that concludes our agenda this evening. Cool.
Good.
All right.
Thank
Thanks
you all.
for your patience and working through the hiccups. And we will hopefully see all of you in a month.
No
All right.
problem.
You
Thank
have a
you all.
motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Item carries. We are adjourned. Thanks again.
Have a good night.
Okay.
Thank
Night all. Thank you.